So what can we do now in order to improve our relationship going forward? That's the path of progression.
Well, and that's what also creates change.
Hi, thank you for coming. Welcome to the Love Shack.
We felt like we needed to be perfect and we needed to be this demonstration of perfection to our children while we were allowing to have a voice. So we cover up affairs, we cover up abortions, we cover up mistakes of all kinds.
Sexual abuse to children.
Addictions, all kinds of things. And we do it under the guise of, I don't want to talk about it. And now our children are saying, I want to talk about it. I want to understand what was going on there. And so I just want you to see the opportunity on both sides. If I were to be able to let myself clean up a mess around a secret and tell the truth about that, is the way we basically help our children understand, because you don't think for a minute your kids are going to be involved in making some messes. The heck they aren't. And we've just robbed them of the wonderful wisdom that we've learned and discovered from our mess. Like, how did I get there? What was I thinking was going to happen? What was so challenging and difficult about that? Here's some things I could pass along to you when I made this mess that may or may not help you on your road. You decide. But all of that learning and wisdom gets lost because I feel like I can't admit where I made a mess. I don't know how to clean it up. I don't know how to disclose it. And it's really hard sometimes when my child sees me doing things that really I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be a neglectful mother. I didn't want to think ever that one of my children was going without physically or emotionally. And yet I had to sit with that. And I had to be with the fact that actually happened for him. And I can actually see how, right? That got set up, not intentionally, but what a beautiful moment it was when we could hug and embrace each other and recognize and realize we understood where everybody was coming from. He understood how it happened from my perspective and vantage point. He could understand how it affected and happened from his vantage point. Like there was a whole nother layer of connection and relationship that was very bonding between my son and I. And he has children and he's a father too. And he's starting to see how this might be something to pay attention to in his own life. That then, because we shared this moment, could be passed down in a form of wisdom, not shame, not criticism, not embarrassment, not guilt, but from a place of, this happened. I made a mess. I look back now and see how I could have done better. And because I didn't know this now or didn't know this then, I know it now. So what can we do now in order to improve our relationship going forward? That's the path of progression.
Well, and that's what also creates change. That creates a different precedent. If we continue to keep doing these things, these traditions and customs that don't work, and they just keep being replicated. So what you just shared, babe, is how that story changes and a new protocol, a new custom, a new habit gets put in place.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I really appreciated about my parents is they always told me the truth about their past. A lot of my friends' parents said they never drank before they were 21, or they never tried marijuana, or they never had sex before marriage, and they were lying through their teeth. My parents were always honest with me, and they told me they tried alcohol, and they told me the real effects of it. Like, yeah, if you get drunk and make a mistake, it can really affect your life, and here's what it feels like to be drunk. Those things really influenced me in a good way that I didn't really want to try it on my own until I was ready, because I had real stories of it from people that I trusted, my parents. I feel like if you just lie and say you've never tried it and you tell your kids it's bad, what is the point of that? I understand why, because they want to set a good example and make their child think that they never did it, blah, blah, blah. Wait, that is such a fallacy.
Here's what I want to say. Parents, it's okay that you made messes and you weren't perfect. Disclose them, because that's how progress is going to be made. And children just want us to clean up messes and see that they are accepted and loved and valued, regardless of what their behavior may be, or their differences in lifestyles or values, which are inevitable, by the way. Remember, kids don't come with sameness. That's never going to happen. They all come with their very unique, individualistic expressions of life. And to expect that all your kids are going to fit into a certain mold is to negate who they are and who it is they have the capacity to be. There is no set it and forget it here. And so parents, your children just want to connect with you. They want to heal. They They want to understand. They want to move forward. And if we are unwilling to have the conversations, to do some self-reflection, to truly, genuinely share the wisdom that matters by sharing our experiences, our mishaps, our mistakes, those are the things that our kids need. Because do you not think for a moment they're going to bump into the same challenges? Of course they are.
And if you act like you are perfect, it just makes us feel like we can't talk to you and that we can't relate to you because, oh, well, they were perfect and they didn't have any of these challenges or want to try any of the things I'm curious about. So I have nothing in common with them.
And children, be gentle, as gentle as possible and skillful about how you approach these conversations with your parents, because what you're asking them to do is so different than anything that they have as a value system or a belief system. And the reality is they probably have a lot of years of baggage from the way that we were raised and the way that we were taught it was supposed to be done. And so it absolutely is a courageous moment when a parent says to a child, okay, I'm ready to talk about this. Let's do this. I promise you their armpits are sweaty, and I bet yours are too, which just highlights the fact that we both desperately want to connect with people and where we come from. And the way that we need to do it is to approach it with some grace, some love, and some clarity and skill. And those are some of the things that we want to help and support you with. Because here's the thing, what's needed to heal and grow forward on all sides is the willingness to realize that your experience and your perspective is not the only perspective. This is going to take courage. It's going to take patience, and it's going to take skill from all parties involved. However, it's truly what each of us desire, acceptance and understanding of self. So I want to highlight as we wrap this up, what's your part? Because this gets really tricky. What's your part and what's not your part, depending on what side of the aisle you're on here. So what's your part if you're a child asking a parent to have a conversation with you is, number one, begin the conversation with acknowledging the reality of what was given, provided, or missed, or longed for on your side. It starts with a reality piece. It could sound a lot like, you know what, I really appreciated that you put a roof over my head and fed me and got me through school, or was there for me in these ways. But what's missing for me is I don't understand this. I don't understand this part. And the benefit that I'm looking for both of us is that we could reestablish a relationship together. We could connect and bond even more. And at the very least, understand each other and our perspectives, right? Not to compare who's right and wrong, and not to belittle and criticize, right, each other, but to truly step into a place of permission, unconditional love in my world. And the last is the invitation. I would love to have this conversation with you if you're willing. And if you're not right now, I honor that. There might be even a stronger conversation that needs to happen. Something along the lines of, I'd like to understand if you're willing to share about fill in the blank. What was happening within you when blank happened? And if you're not ready to talk about it, I feel at this point in time, we're going to have to limit our contact, because I can tell until I get understanding around these things, I can't move forward. So let me know when you're ready. That might be a way to close the garage door for a while, but you've been clear. Here's the thing. When we say or do things in an attempt to manipulate and force on either side, we're usually left with a huge degree of upset, because I, quite frankly, didn't like the way I showed up. Your goal here, your win, is to show up in the very best way you can, saying what you need to say, with clarity and specifics, and then firmly stating what you're willing to do and not do, and allow them to choose how they're going to approach this. Are they going to step in and have a conversation or not now? If it's not now, no problem. I'm going to let it rest, but at least you know where I stand here. And I can send an invitation later down the road. I can give it some time, or you might be surprised. They might come back around like we've already highlighted and said, I'm ready to have that conversation you told me you wanted to have because I miss you. Just recognize pain in these situations oftentimes are the catalyst to doing what it is we know we need to do anyway. So those are important takeaways. And we're going to put this in a resource for you. Now, you might be on the other side of the fence. You might have messes that you haven't come clean with, right? And you know you need to. Well, how do you clean those up? There's a resource for that as well. In the show notes, all you need to do is click the link, and what will happen is you'll get access to both, whether you're the person inviting somebody to clean up a mess or you're the person who needs to clean up a mess. And I'm not going to go into those step by step, but just know that there's a resource for you to download and keep with you and read through it. And then, of course, If you need help and support with skilling up so that you can step more robustly into these opportunities that await you, you can always reach out to us. We're here to support and encourage you and teach you and mentor you in any way that we possibly can. Is there any other wrap up that we want to do here?
Yeah, I would say that's one of the primary things that we do with people that we work with and many times it takes some outside skilled facilitation to reestablish that permission and safety that otherwise is not there in the beginning. And then through practice, we're all about practice here. If you've been listening to us, through some practice and new skills and the ability to execute that, then you and your child, you and your partner will be able to reestablish this permission and safety that you hear us talk about endlessly, because those are the core components between loved ones. Really, before you can get anywhere else, you've got to have, as Staci calls permission, that truly is unconditional love.
I wanted to say a lot of times the way this conversation is presented on TikTok by parents who were cut off is they are acting like this is a huge mystery to them, or like there's a huge epidemic of children who are catching this disease that's causing them to cut off their parents. And I just want to say, after hearing this conversation, I'm sure everyone listening can understand that that's not what's happening at all. It's very obvious what's happening once you break it down in the way that we did. There's always a reason. There's always a failure to communicate that's happened between both parties. And I'm not saying who's right or who's wrong, but there is no epidemic of children that are catching a disease to cut off their parents. And we're not like in cahoots behind the scenes encouraging each other to cut our parents off. But that is like a fear that is happening, which I can understand why parents are being fearful of that. But what is being asked of you is to come to the table and listen to what your children have to say and treat them as adults. You know, they're not little kids anymore in the situations where this is happening. So really listen to what they have to say. And I'm sure a lot of them are genuinely asking with all of their heart. And I'm speaking on behalf of millennials here. They're just asking to be accepted. You know, they're asking for you to hear them. They're asking for you to just be like, okay, I can hear you. I may not understand you, but I at least can hear you. You know, that sometimes those things that are hardest to say can be the most healing. And this isn't some scary thing that new parents need to be terrified that their kids are going to grow up and cut them off. Because if you make the changes that we've talked about today, that's not even going to be in your future at all. You know, this is a very easy thing to prevent from happening. It's just that we have not, as a society, learned these skills and tools that are necessary to have healthy relationships with anybody, let alone our children. So that's why this is happening. It's not some big, scary black cloud that's floating over future families. It's because there's a genuine problem and we have the solution. That's the good news.
Absolutely. And just to retrace, our parents thought the same thing about us when we started getting divorces at an alarming rate, and it started to pick up.
Like
And
a crazy thing was
yes. Like there was something in the water that we were drinking, and all of a sudden everybody was going, I'm going to end this relationship.
I think it's just also a great confirmation that we have to realize that all of life it's energy, right? So it's evolution. Nothing stays the same. And so it will require all of us to realize we have to raise our game, if you will. We can't continue. And I know people say, look, no, you're advocating we're going to throw out. No, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but you have to come at it from a different place, at different skill sets, different approaches. At the end of the day, again, we say this too, everyone wants to be seen, valued, and appreciated. Just remember that we are all longing for that because we're human, and those are fundamental human needs at the highest level. Those three things right there.
And nobody likes to be forced.
Yes.
Just think about somebody who's trying to force you to do or say anything as a human being. It doesn't even matter if it's good for you. The more you're forced, the more you don't want to go on and do it. So that happens on both sides. And I know that when our emotions start to spin and spiral up, right, and they sometimes feel unbearable, we feel like we need to have a solution like right now, the conversation like right now. And I'm just going to encourage you to do what I call an emotional push-up and slow down and give it some space and time, because it's going to only go well if both people can come to the table in that space where they're ready to have a conversation. And so again, don't don't forget to get that resource that's part of this episode because it has those steps in there. And then, gosh, if you have any questions about it or any shares, we would love to hear from you. Don't hesitate to reach out. I hope that there's two conclusive takeaways here that I just want to remind you of. The first is our opportunity is to build a bigger and brighter future rooted in the principles of human relationships. And this is going to help you avoid grief and regret on both sides. Number two, understanding and respecting individual choices when it comes to maintaining or severing family ties is the goal. There is no one way for us all to approach that. The needs and the remedies, emotionally and otherwise, are very individual, and there's not just one perspective, there's multiple perspectives. So it's our opportunity to understand those. And that's literally, in my world, what communication is all about, with a hard period. Understanding myself first, being able to translate my own thoughts, feelings, experiences, and emotions into a language that first I can understand. And then I want to give that gift to somebody I say I love. And I can't give that gift if I'm busy defending, manipulating, attacking, criticizing, minimizing, shutting down, avoiding. That gift cannot be given. And so our path of progress is learning how to do these principled skills. I hope that helps you. I want to wrap this up by that beautiful quote that you found from a writer. He's a Lebanese/American writer,
Poet,
philosopher.
artist, yeah.
Yeah, Khalil Gibran. And he wrote this quote back in 1923.
Comes from his book, The Prophet.
The Prophet. And here's the thing, it's so applicable to today. And so I just wanted to highlight the fact it was 1923 when it was written, so we can see this evolution again that we keep pointing to, right? As Brooke said, there's no mystery.
That's 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It's exactly 100 years ago. He says, your children are not your children. They are sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And although they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children are as loving arrows as they are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, and his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the arrows that fly, so he also loves the bow that is stable. I just think we are trying to impede our children, and they are living in a world that did not exist when we were growing up. And they are desperately trying to learn from us, their parents, so that they can then navigate the uncharted waters of the future. And now we're arguing about who's right and who's wrong. And we need to let go of this and realize you don't need to impart them with your value system and ways. You need to give them the understanding and wisdom that you have collected so that you can send them forth into places that you will never see. That's our job. I know that's a big topic, an important topic. I'm sure we'll have more conversations about this. So go get a glass of water and we're going to do a hard left and do a little bit of fun. If by chance you find yourself in a place where you are wrestling with many of the things that we've talked about in today's podcast, for our follow the fun moment, I want you to just take a piece of paper or a little note card, or go buy a card, highlight something that you love about the person in your life that you're struggling with right now. And for no other reason than just sending them a note of appreciation. Send something to them that says, I appreciated it when, or a fun memory that I have of you is, and just send it off with no expectation, no attachment, nothing in return. Just send it off because it's something that you feel and know to be true inside of yourself, and then let it be. Just let it be. That would be one of the greatest gifts you can give to someone in your life that you're struggling with right now. Just let them know that you have good memories, that you have good moments, or you do have appreciation for some of the things that they've done for you. Our Can You Feel It song today? Oh boy, I have to say it's a Gus thing, God, Universe, and Spirit. I usually do quite a bit of research to find the perfect song, and this one just popped right into my sphere of awareness immediately, and it's such a perfect fit for today's conversation. It's a song sung by Meghan Trainor and Teddy Swims, Bad for Me. And basically the lyrics version of them are, please don't make promises you can't keep. Your best intentions keep hurting me. I know we're blood, but this love is bad for me. It's so good. You can check this song out with our entire playlist by going to our website, or you can find it on Spotify by searching up Love Shack Live playlist. That's a wrap for today. And again, if you have, I know this is a big, heavy topic, so if you have any thoughts or questions or shares that come up for you from having listened to this podcast, please reach out to us. We're here to support you in any way that we can. And if you want to roll up your sleeves and get rooted in those important relational principles that we alluded to today and pointed to, don't hesitate to reach out and learn and discover ways that we can support you on this. And at the very least, make sure you take advantage of the resources that we provided you to help you have this conversation or begin this conversation. They'll help you out a lot. That's it for now.
All right, it's time to leave the Love Shack. But before we part ways, we want you to know our door is always open and we'll leave the porch light on, ready to welcome you back whenever you need a dose of relationship wisdom. For more resources and tools, visit us at loveshacklive.com.